Chief Minister, good morning. Welcome to the program. Surprised to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Adam. Good morning to your listeners.
All right, we'll start with some questions. This one from Dane. Why did it take you over a week to realise the appropriate response to the Operation Apollo report was a show cause process rather than remediation? Start there.
Yeah, so of course people are aware that on Thursday last week I was briefed by the ICAC, and then on the Friday they made their public statement, and of course that then created a lot of secrecy and confidentiality issues which have played out very openly in the media to much frustration on everyone's account. Then Thursday last week, the Commissioner obviously made himself known. That then allowed other processes to take place. And by Saturday, I'd notified him that I was commencing that process of termination, that he did not hold the confidence of trust and confidence of myself, and ultimately that his position was untenable.
Dane goes on to say, over 6 months after forming government, why have you not initiated an inquiry into Northern Territory Police after calling for one multiple times whilst opposition leader? Haven't the revelations for the past 10 days only increased that need? Are you going to do an inquiry into the police?
That's a really great question. So your listener's right. We were calling for inquiries from opposition, but what our inquiry was what ended up being the police review. So reluctantly, Labor did end up doing the police review, which covered off on most of the issues we were concerned about: low rates of morale, high rates of attrition, police health and wellbeing, some really, really key areas. And so that work has been done, that report has been completed, it's been acknowledged by both parties, and that work continues, which is quite distinct. I mean, I do hear from people that there are continued concerns, and I'm just working through that methodically.
The union says the force is in disarray, and now questions are being asked about a host of the internal appointments. This is what Nathan Finn had to say yesterday.
I am aware of those people that were sitting on that panel. I've had conversations with those people as well. There are concerns because this, as a conflict of interest, I don't know the level it had been raised or has been raised, or I really don't know. I don't have that evidence to suggest. But that brings into question, did anyone else raise that conflict at the time? Did the applicant raise the conflict at the time as well? So there's a number of things that we're concerned about, not only with this panel, but there's also other promotional panels which may have been influenced as well. And we're quite concerned, and our members are as well. How would you feel if you were on these panels and you were going for a promotion, you didn't get a promotion, then find out that it wasn't actually above board?
That's the Northern Territory Police Association's Nathan Finn speaking on this program yesterday. The Acting Police Commissioner, Martin Dole, was on the same panel that Michael Murphy was on, that the ICAC has investigated and found Mr Murphy engaged in incompetent conduct by recruiting a close friend to the high-ranking police position. When were you aware that Mr Dole was also on the recruitment panel?
Yesterday morning, when I think Nathan said it on your show, Adam. So I have nothing in front of me that would suggest any other course of action. What I know is that Martin Dole is the Deputy Commissioner. He's a long-standing police officer, and what happens is whenever the Commissioner is away or unable to fulfil the Commissioner duties, the Deputy steps up. And so Martin has, as he rightly should, stepped up into that role, because I have to say what is most important to me, and there's lots of conjecture and conversation about all of this, but at the core of what I'm most concerned about is stability for our police. Now, they have been through a tumultuous period over many years, and our job in coming to government was to support them with all of the resources and powers and that is necessary. And we've been doing that work. We've seen increases in morale, Adam. We've seen attrition go down. So that work has started, and we have incredible police. So leadership is very important, and the doubt being cast over, recruitment processes, does destabilise things. And so I'm working through methodically what we can do to give confidence about those processes. But ultimately, our police need the support of the community and the government to go out every single day and put themselves in danger to be able to go and keep our streets safe. And community safety continues to be our number one priority, which is why my number one priority is making sure our police feel supported.
You're on ABC Radio. Darwin Adams Steer with you. Chief Minister of the Northern Territory, Leah Finocchiaro, is your guest right around the Northern Territory. So you've moved to remove the Police Commissioner of the Northern Territory without even investigating who else was on the recruitment panel that is in question here. You didn't do any investigation at all?
Because the ICAC does the investigation, and the ICAC has made its public statement clear, and that public statement, well, everyone's seen and certainly heard about it. And ultimately, Mr. Murphy put his hand up and said, yes, that's me, the issues around the conflict of interest and the recruitment process. And so having afforded Mr. Murphy the opportunity to resign, which is still available to him, we've made that important step to commence that process of termination. And we've been really transparent with Territorians about what that looks like. It does require a natural justice process. It will ultimately require a cabinet, an executive council, and recommendation to the administrator. So there is, water to go under that bridge, if you want to say it that way, Adam. But ultimately, that process has commenced. In the interim, you have Acting Commissioner Dole in the place to keep continuity of business and service delivery for our police, and we continue to work to make the Territory a safer place, better powers, better laws, and a better operating environment for our police.
Would you have elevated Mr. Dole to the Acting Commissioner if you were in the know that he was on the panel, the same panel that Michael Murphy is now being questioned over?
Yeah, he is the Deputy Commissioner. There is nothing in front of me, Adam, that makes Mr. Dole not suitable.
He served on the same panel. I mean, to be clear, as you just said, we've got to give Mr. Murphy natural justice here. So we can't go, I don't really want to go into the details of it. But how does that give any confidence to the public in the police force if a commissioner is being sacked for serving on a panel that the new replacement commissioner also served on? It's not good optics, whichever way you look at it.
Well, I think we're conflating issues, and I think we do need to be careful. I'm not trying to minimise it, but at the end of the day, the ICAC has looked at this. Now, the ICAC has more powers than anyone to look at anything. And if they felt that there was some issue, would they not have said it in their statement? And they didn't. So, again, there is no evidence before me. I can't operate on rumour and innuendo. I'd be chasing my tail every day, Adam.
It's not rumour and innuendo. You're investigating who else was on the panel.
What wrongdoing is being alleged?
We're not going to talk about that now because...
This is what I'm saying. So, at the end of the day, the deputy always steps up as acting. That process has taken place. Until there's something on my desk that says otherwise, that is going to continue. And what we have is a process going forward, and I'm really focused on making sure this does not act as a bigger distraction for our police than obviously it already is. It's very, very upsetting for some. Others are just getting on with the job, and ultimately what we have to have is a strong force because people want safe streets, and it's our police who deliver that for them.
I did speak to Nathan Finn, the Police Association, yesterday when he said that his members had lost their faith in the police commissioner. I asked him when that had first happened. This is what he had to say.
At the end of the day, our members are going above and beyond to try and repair these relationships and trying to do everything they possibly can to support the people they serve in the community.
He says that together we can commit to not repeating our mistakes and injustices. That seems like a positive move.
It is, and we all want to learn from our mistakes, Adam. Definitely, and our members learn from that as well. They're held to account for when something doesn't go the way it's planned. We've seen this time and time again, but the fact is that where members haven't done anything wrong, should he be apologising on behalf of them?
So was that
we feel no.
So was the apology? Is that what's caused the rift between the members and the commissioner?
That's correct.
Solely that.
No, there's a number of factors. As I said, I won't be going into that, but that's a contributing factor.
Nathan Finn saying there that one of the contributing factors was Michael Murphy's apology to Aboriginal Territorians at the Garma Festival last year. Do you back Mr. Murphy's apology, Chief Minister?
Oh, look, that is entirely within the scope of the Police Commissioner's right and responsibilities to do that. Certainly there was a lot of public commentary at the time, and I think it played out very publicly the NTPA's opposition to that. But ultimately it's not a factor in this consideration right now. What we've got before us is an ICAC statement, an individual who's put their hand up, and a process moving forward, and that's what we're undertaking.
1300 05 222 is the number to call, Chief Minister. I'm just going to get you to put on your headphones there. We've got Arby. Hello, Arby. What's your question to the Chief Minister?
How are you going to ensure that your members of your police force are culturally appropriate when dealing with Indigenous people, especially the Larrakia people on which you mob operate your businesses? And before you answer that question, I just want to say that Mr. Murphy's apology shouldn't have happened.
Okay,
Because
but
there needs to be reform and there needs to be things put in place before people start apologising, because it's almost like, yeah, I can go around unaliving all your mob and say sorry and it's fine, and we're not going to investigate it and we're not going to put anything in place to ensure it doesn't happen in the future.
okay.
I don't know why us Indigenous people in 2025 are still discussing a foreign policing system that's unaliving us on our land.
All right. So, but your question this morning,
Thank
Arby, is the cultural awareness training for police, Chief Minister.
Thank you, Arby. Great question. And thank you also for your feedback and comments. One of the things that has happened is, there's been a number of things that have happened, but of course we do have Leanne Little now in the Northern Territory Police Force, a former Australian of the Year, and she's undertaking a sort of whole of police reform project. There is lots of training and other things that our police obviously have to do. And we have incredible Aboriginal police right across the territory, from liaison officers right up the ranks, who are doing a wonderful, wonderful job. So obviously before police, particularly new police going out remote, for example, it's an entirely different environment. And that's all the feedback I get from cops who are posted out bush is just the richness of the relationship. And it's about growing those relationships and moving forward.
It is 9:15 almost on ABC Radio Darwin. We do have to let you go early today. I think you've got a cabinet meeting today. Operation Tasman, the NT's anti-corruption watchdog, made findings in February from Operation Tasman against a senior public service officer for misusing sick leave entitlements. Will your government be adopting the ICAC's recommendations to tighten up public service leave processes?
Yes, recommendations will be accepted, and I can confirm that person no longer works for the public service.
You haven't made any public statements about Operation Tasman. Why not?
It is, again, one of those confidentiality issues, but I can say that it has been dealt with.
Yesterday, the ABC reported that 11 large fuel tanks for the US military had been constructed on Darwin Harbour unlawfully without a building permit. Should the NT's Director of Building Control, Mark Meldrum, be held responsible for allowing the project to proceed unlawfully?
Yeah, so this is, again, a Labor legacy we've inherited, much like what we've been talking about earlier, Adam. And it's really unfortunate because defence is critical to the Territory's economy going forward and in solidifying confidence in our place in the region, and our defence relationships with the United States are vital. So this is an unfortunate project. I don't know that there's any blame that needs to be sheeted. What I'm most concerned about is making sure that project gets remediated and online fast, because we have to continue to show our United States partners that we can deliver, we are open for business, and we're ready to be a partner with them in the Indo-Pacific.
I saw that there was a number of US military personnel in Darwin last week having a look at exactly some of the preparations and abilities that we're offering them here. What did you get out of those meetings?
Yeah, so it's very exciting. We continuously have military personnel from the United States in the Territory. We're obviously gearing up for the next rotation of Marines coming through, and we've just sent a delegation. They've just come back from Hawaii as well. Now, for our region, and I was thinking about this the other day. Territorians are probably wondering why we are continuously going to Hawaii. It probably sounds like because they've got beautiful beaches and it's a nice place, but it's actually because the United States, for our region, that's the central hub for the United States for what governs our region. So Hawaii is a very important strategic location for the Territory to be building partnerships with. And so we've just had Defence NT over there, master builders and other key stakeholders who actually got to do a presentation to defence contractors highlighting our local capability. And as we move forward, that's really our focus, is about making sure not just the United States, we now have the Japanese self-defence forces who will be doing a rotation this year, and equally our Australian Defence Forces have to know and have confidence that if they want to do projects in the Territory, we have the skills here on the ground. And so that important work is being done because it's our local businesses that really set to benefit from this. You're
on ABC Radio Darwin, 1300 057 222. Chief Minister of the Northern Territory, Leah Finocchiaro, your guest. Kath has got a question around domestic violence funding. Kath, hello. What's your question for the Chief Minister?
Hi, good morning, Chief Minister, and thanks for being here with us. I heard you say that your priority is community safety and that you want to support police. And I believe that your government has received $180 million in federal funding for domestic, family and sexual violence services. So I think that would probably take a lot of pressure off police and save lives. What's the progress on releasing that money to the services, please?
Good. Thank you, Kath.
Great. Thank you, Kath, for your question. I appreciate you taking the time to call in. So just to clarify, we made an election commitment to put $180 million of territory money. So that's your taxpayers' dollars, Kath, and all the other listeners. And what we've actually done is transition that. So that equated to $36 million a year. We've now confirmed 36 ongoing so that we've got that funding certainty moving forward. And you're right, domestic violence is a huge portion of the crime we see across the territory. And it's really about dealing with the root causes and getting to the kids and the underlying issues first so that we don't have future generations of DV offenders, but then making sure we have the services right now for women and children fleeing who need support, respite, shelter, all of those other types of services. And equally, as our correction system starts to stabilise, and obviously we're in a very crisis period now where we're building more beds as fast as humanly possible. We are then also very committed to making sure that there is behavioural change programs being mandated in prison.
But I think the question is, Robin Cale said the $180 million would start flowing by the end of the month. We've already discussed...
Yeah, so the 36 has, yes.
So it's already started?
Yes, so money has started flowing. There's a number of programs that now have funding certainty because we hear a lot from particularly the NGO sector about funding cliffs. So that 36 is rolling out and it's every year ongoing.
Well, we've heard some women's shelters, we've been speaking to them the last couple of weeks, that are turning away up to 200 women a month. Can you afford 36 million? Is it enough? Do we need to be putting more in there?
It is a very large amount. We also do get some money from the federal government, and we're obviously looking at demand. Minister Carla's doing all of the work in this space
Are
around...
you committing to the multi-agency approach recommended by Elizabeth Armitage, the coroner?
So we're working through all of those recommendations. Many have already been implemented, particularly from the policing side. I have to say we've done a lot of work in that space. Well in advance of the coronial. So there's always more work to do. And let's not forget, in 8 years under Labor, DV went up 82%. So this is not a small problem to try and fix. This is a big ingrained issue.
All right, we're just about out of time. We do have to let you go. Janice, though, wanted to ask a question about some of the new laws that you were proposing to put in on anti-discrimination. Janice, briefly, what's your question to the Chief Minister?
Hi, Leah. In an atmosphere throughout Australia where there is appalling racial and cultural vilification, particularly against Jews and Muslims, why is the Territory wishing to remove the clause, the anti-vilification clause in the Discrimination Act? Because in sending the message, it's more important for free speech, even if that speech is vilifying, to protect their rights than the rights of multicultural Australians to feel safe and respected in Australia.
Thank you, Janice.
Thanks, Janice. And it was good to chat to you the other night at our multi-faith event. I think there's been some misunderstanding about this, and that's unfortunate. And this is not about vilification. A couple of years ago, Labor passed widespread changes to the Anti-Discrimination Act, largely of which we're keeping all of them. There are two we are changing. One is around protections for religious schools to employ religious teachers of the same faith. And the other is just to remove the word offensive as a ground for discrimination. So what we saw at that time was widespread concern that offensive was too broad a category to amount to discrimination. And that's something we committed to years ago, and it's something we will deliver. This is not about allowing vilification, and I obviously we spoke the other day, and I hear you on those issues, and we condemn what is going on, particularly in other parts of this country. But this is not about that. It is very clearly religious protections for schools and removal of the word offensive.
Those religious protections were already in place under the changes under Labor. Why are you changing that? Because you already could be a principal, you could be a senior leader, and you could be elevated to those positions purely based on your religious faith.
No, so Labor,
This is about being able to discriminate against the cleaner. It's about discriminating against smaller people.
It's about It's predominantly about teachers. So, for example, if you are pick any school, an Anglican school, a Lutheran school, a Catholic school, a Greek school.
Yes.
If you have two candidates of equal, they're both fantastic teachers. They've both been teachers for 10 years, whatever. If one of them is your faith and one of them isn't, or even worse, one of them is against your faith, then the school has the opportunity to pick the person that shares the faith without that being a discriminatory selection.
Well, I asked the Catholic bishop about this last week. What evidence do you have that occurred during that 2 or 3 years that legislation was in place? Can you give me some examples?
Well, no, I don't have examples, but what we know at the time is that thousands of people were hugely concerned about this. We had rallies at Parliament House, we had protests and marches, and we stood with those people concerned because Labor could not articulate what problem they were trying to fix. Now, as I've said, there were many, many changes to that legislation which will remain. The only two we are changing are the religious freedoms and offensive.
I do have to let you go. There's a lot more
Thank
I'd like
you,
to ask
Adam,
you about,
I
but
know.
thank you so much
I'll
for
see you
coming in
soon,
today,
though.
Thank you.
Take care.
There's